A masterful batsman, a destroyer of bowlers, a West Indian great. Gordon Greenidge plundered runs the world over. Today he goes head-to-head with Terry Kennedy.
Greenidge comes down the track, hits it beautifully at 6.
Gordon Greenidge was just half of one of the best opening partnerships the cricket world has ever seen.
It's well driven, it's going to be 4.
Unfortunately, Australia saw far too much of Greenidge and Desmond Haynes. The pair would stroll to the crease as if invincible, and that was just the beginning.
6. He's hit that beautifully.
They shared in 16 century opening partnerships. They were backed up by the likes of Viv Richards.
That's a brilliant stroke.
And Clive Lloyd further down the order. Add to that the most lethal bowling attack in the world with the likes of Holding,
Gone!
Marshall, Walsh and Garner.
And then he follows it up with a Yorker, and a very accurate Yorker he has got.
And the West Indies were virtually unbeatable.
An edge straight to
Greenidge
Clive
more than
Lloyd.
made his mark, playing over 100 test matches, including a double century against Australia. He's now the coach of Bangladesh. And all this from a man who came so close to playing test cricket for England.
Good shot from Greenidge. He's hit that right in the middle.
Welcome to Head to Head. Over 100 test matches for his country and 7,500 runs. Gordon Greenidge joins us now. Gordon, firstly, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
I've got to bring it up. The West Indies just beaten in Pakistan by 3 tests to 0. What's gone wrong?
I have no idea. I'm sure the guys there are very worried about the situation at the moment, or if they're not, they should be. What is going to get it right for them, I am not sure about that. I have not been party to what's been going on in the Caribbean for some time, so I wouldn't really have a clue as to what is happening or why the team is not playing well.
The cricketing world, throughout your era, so used to the West Indies being a winning side, it's hard to come to grips, isn't it, at the moment that the West Indies, I hate to say it, one of the easy beats around the world.
Yes, I think in the past, when we lose a match, everyone was wondering, well, what happened? Why did we lose? Now, if they win a match, it's a talking point, unfortunately. But it's very difficult to put your hand on the reason why things are happening or things, the way things have been going for the team. I'm not sure what is being done to rectify the problem, so it's very difficult to really make an opinion or give an opinion as to why things have gone so badly.
There's still a lot of talent in that West Indies outfit at the moment. I think the big surprise from Pakistan was the ease, the results, beaten by an innings in all 3 test matches.
Yes, I suppose they will look back on the series and think, well, yes, of course every team gets beat from time to time. Right now we're not playing very well, but I think the worrying factor would be the way they've been beaten.
When you're losing, the cricket rumour mill, it works overtime, doesn't it, really? And, of course, there's all sorts of rumours coming out about what's wrong about the West Indies, some infighting in the team.
Yes, of course, many people have different opinions as to why things have gone wrong, why this player is not playing well. Sometimes, I suppose, the internal problems actually sort of surface as well, and that maybe players look at others and see how they're playing, or maybe they're not playing well and challenge that, but sometimes forget about making more of a self-adjustment or assessment of their own game to try to rectify their own problems. So, again, it causes many problems in many different directions.
You're surprised to touch Brian Lara, just some 136 runs on that tour of Pakistan, of course. Many believe the world's greatest batsman.
Well, because he's been so dependable, and obviously the media obviously expect him to, and I would think he would expect himself to get runs as well after his more recent sort of feats. It's understandable that people want him to do well and expect him to get a lot of runs, but maybe the additional pressure that is placed on him sometimes is greater than, you know, the performance that he's able to and capable of.
I guess that's the pressure that comes with being one of the world's best batsmen, isn't it? Every time you step out there at the crease, people expect to see you make some runs.
Yes, but it's wrong because you're only human and you cannot be successful all the time. But I think you don't really want the bad run to continue, because the more they happen, the deeper and more sort of lonely you feel out there. You're not quite sure what to do. everything you do is wrong. It's out of proportion, out of position. There's no coordination whatsoever in what you're doing, so it becomes very difficult for you to settle in and play an innings because you're never certain where your next run is going to come from. You're not certain about what to do. Bad balls you don't put away, and good balls definitely get you out.
Brian Lara is such a popular character in the West Indies. A lot of people want him back in the West Indies to be captain of this West Indies outfit, and they think that might solve all the problems, but that would be a big call, wouldn't it? Yes,
it would probably put more strain on him because he's not been actually playing his best recently. Whether Courtney is actually going to give it up for the West Indies board to give it to someone else is another thing. Maybe he will not have that choice. Maybe he'll be just asked to leave. Maybe not so kindly anyway. But that's the way it goes. I'm not sure whether or not he'll be the best person for the job, but whoever they give it to is going to have another hard task ahead of him.
I imagine a very big time coming up in West Indies cricket. England go there on tour. If they win a couple of those test matches, the home side, the West Indies win, all the problems might be solved.
Yes, of course it will be solved, but the way they play at the moment, even though they may be going back to play on home turf, which sometimes you will feel that's an advantage, I think they'll still have to really sort of pull themselves together to be successful on that trip. England got a fairly young crop of players now, and they've been playing well together. They've been motivated well together as a group, and although they're relatively young, I think they're playing reasonably well together. How we are going to actually sort of compete in that series, I'm not quite sure. But I think it should be a good series anyway. The West Indies wickets are getting much slower now because of the continuous use. And it may be cause for more concentration, longer period of batting, really putting your head down and concentrating. A team that bats for a day and a half probably will not lose the match. If you bat for 2 days, there's a good chance you're going to win the match.
That's right.
But that's what you've got to try to do. The long period of batting, the duration is important. The time in this game, or in cricket, especially in test matches, is as important as runs. So they've got to put their head down and bat and try to bat for a day and a half, even if they only get 320 runs. The time factor is very important. That comes into play at the latter part of the match. So it's how they are able to concentrate for that long period, and they're really going to have to sort of do something better than they have done in the last sort of 6 to 9 months.
Big Curtly Ambrose just doesn't seem to be quite as mean as he used to be in days gone by when he charges in.
Well, I suppose little niggling injuries as well, and going on with age as well, and he's had a long stint where he's been the pick of the bowlers, and the extra pressure and the long bowling stint that they've had to do from time to time in matches perhaps has worn him down a little bit. He still has a lot of fight in him, and you see when he runs in, but he didn't seem to be able to capture that sort of magic he had before. Courtney is still bowling very well. He's still bowling with a lot of fire and still very quick, and he's been the pick of the bowlers in recent times. He's always blended in well with the other bowlers when Marshall and those guys were playing. But I think he has really taken over, and he's really held the team together as far as the bowling department is concerned. So Bishop, in and out again, to sometimes looks very good, bowls pretty well. But I think at times he must be thinking that, you know, he's been in and out too often with this injury, the back injury, back problem. And maybe I will reserve myself a little bit instead of excelling, extending myself for fear of reoccurrence of the injury. So again, that balance have not been there because he's not been able to go out there and really express himself well on the field. There are not many other youngsters coming through. The other two bowlers have bowled well in spells, especially in the Caribbean where they sort of bowled very well, but so far they haven't actually sort of continued where they started. So that poses a problem. If your bowlers don't really sort of keep the batsman or the batting side down, and sort of reduce the run rate, then you know that you're going to be behind the 8 ball each time. You've got to get more runs, or you've got to bat better or bat for longer, and that poses another problem.
Brian Lara can fight back. He's good enough, isn't he?
Yes, he's good enough, but again, too, he could be forcing the issue too much, trying to get back on even keel too much, and the more you force these things, I mean, the worse they get, or it just sort of keeps you down. So you got to relax a little bit, and as I said, I mean, with the amount of pressure that is placed on him, perhaps it's not giving him the chance to relax and play his natural game.
Now, Malcolm Marshall, he's coaching the West Indies, you're coaching Bangladesh. How did that come about?
Long story. We don't have time for that.
Did you always want to be a coach? Because some cricketers, when they finish, they don't want to be a coach. But did you always harbour that idea of being a coach?
I didn't start out with that idea, but looking at what's been going on in the other countries, I got involved with it. I started with club teams, with some of the teams I've coached in England in spells, and the idea came about, yes, why not looking after a national side? That's good. And it becomes, right now it's self-satisfying. The success is not there as far as the team is concerned, but I am getting a chance now to be part and parcel of the development of the game that's given me a lot of love. You know, I've loved the game since I started playing, and I've never stopped loving the game. And now being involved in it still, but in a different sort of, on a different aspect, I'm still enjoying and loving the game as much. I'm now looking after a group of players who has good talent, but it is raw talent. It needs to be harnessed. We need the facilities to help develop these players. And working with them is very self-satisfying. So I'm pleased about the situation at the moment.
If you wanted a challenge, you picked a cricketing nation with a big challenge, Bangladesh.
Definitely, yes. They are cut off the similar mode from India, Pakistan, but they have not had the experience in playing at the level we need to play at. Unfortunately, we have to travel out of Bangladesh to get the type of competition because we don't have all those facilities at the moment in Bangladesh to invite teams over. And also, it's going to be difficult for us to have a reasonable itinerary because of the compact cricket itinerary around the world. But in saying that, we need to start introducing more 3- and 4-day matches within the countries to give our players a chance to bat for those durations, a longer period of time. We only play mostly 1-day matches at the moment, which is not sufficient, although they will be the matches that we'll be playing in for the next 2 years or so, and leading, well, up to a year and a half leading up to the World Cup. We need the longer duration games, and the 3- and 4-day matches will give us a chance to have a better idea as to our progress and improvement for international cricket.
When could we see Bangladesh on the world stage? When will you bring them out of the closet?
I can't give you a time on that. As I said, we need to look seriously at our infrastructure at the moment. And until we get that sorted out, it's going to be difficult for us to make that transition. So it's difficult to put a time span on it.
I've got to put the pressure on coaching Bangladesh now. Does that mean you're cutting your teeth? You want to coach the West Indies?
Perhaps not in the present state.
When they get a couple of, when they're firing a little bit better.
I would think that it will cause for a long, long thought. I mean, if the situation arises, then obviously you'll consider it. But at the moment, I've got enough to chew on. I'm afraid I'm satisfied with what I'm doing at the moment and where I am. I know my job is a pretty harsh one to try and get things moving there. But as I said, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And the players that are there, I believe, are part and parcel of the enjoyment of the whole proceedings as well. So I'm satisfied and I'm contented as to what is going on at the moment. It's just that we need to increase the facilities and change the infrastructure and try to put a little more pressure on the authorities to get things moving so that we can get a better footing in international cricket.
International cricket, as you said, it's hard to say when Bangladesh will be up there, say, fighting in a World Cup.
Well, we've got a chance to play in England in the next World Cup, but don't expect too much. We're young, we're green, and we'll be going in with a fairly young group of players. So it's going to take time to give them that experience. We need more matches, we need better competition, we need a higher grade of competition within Dhaka itself, not just outside, and that has to change if we are going to make this transition.
Stay with us on Head to Head. After the break, we'll speak with Gordon Greenidge about the success of the West Indies in the 70s and early 80s. Well, Gordon, born in Barbados, but you moved to England when just 14 years of age. Obviously, you fitted in pretty well to English cricket because you played there for a long, long time.
Yes, one has to be adaptable. Yeah, my parents had moved to England, and I joined my mother when I was 14. So I suppose really cricket for me sort of actually took off after I got there. I played a few matches in Barbados, but that was just an amount of guys from in the area and things like that, but not really any sort of competitive sort of games, so to speak. So maybe it'd be right to say that I really sort of picked up and really sort of made any real progress after I sort of got to England.
Is the story right that they tried to get you to play for England? How close did you come to playing for England?
Well, the question was asked, not directly. It was a talking point for a short period of time, and that was about probably 73, and the West Indies were touring England at the time. But after that, the decision really was taken out of my hand because I went back to the Caribbean in 73. Right. Then after that season finished in the Caribbean, which was then the Shell Shield series, I went back to England to continue my contract with Hampshire. And at the end of that year, after that county season finished, I was picked for the West Indies team to go to India, which was my first tour, 74. So the decision really was taken out of my hand. And I'm not quite sure how things would have gone because I would have had to open the batting with Jeff Boycott.
Well, there is a clash of personality straight away. Obviously, you made the right decision. Very happy with the decision you made because it became a magnificent West Indies outfit.
Yes, because of the bunch of guys that were playing, and we all sort of mucked in and sort of played well together. And I think it was a very, first of all, it didn't actually start it that way. It didn't actually start it that way. But after a while, it got better. Things changed. The guys began to understand better what their roles were, and everyone accepted their own personal responsibility within the team. And that was good. Individually it was good, collectively it was good, because the team gained success from that. And having someone like Clive Lloyd at the helm, who was more of a father figure, helped a lot as well. Not many times he had to use the sort of a tip boot sort of thing, or the leather strap, but at times, you know, he was needed badly because of his understanding and I suppose the personality of the man as well. Strangely enough, people wonder, well, why is he saying this now? Because I mentioned something years ago in my book that people didn't accept very well, but they didn't understand exactly what I was trying to say. But having him around and other players and so on made a difference in sort of calming things down, giving players a feeling of want. They were needed, they were accepted, and things just went very smoothly from there on in.
So much talent in that West Indies side of the 70s and the early 80s. Plenty of egos. Did any ever get shattered? Was there any trouble in the camp at any stage? Because there were so many stars, really, weren't there?
I would have to say that our internal problems were very small, very minute. Nothing to really speak of. Nothing that caused any disruption within the camp. And again, too, because success was being gained as well, that erased that perhaps might have occurred if they weren't gaining the success.
Winning's a wonderful thing.
Exactly, yes, yes. And basically, I think we all got along very well together. You got on top one of each other, under each other's skin from time to time because you're living with each other. You're sharing a room, and sometimes you may do something that's not acceptable to the other person. But in general, I think that did not cause any real disruption among the players or within the team. So the harmony was there.
89 test matches, you walked out there in the middle and you opened up the batting with Desmond Haynes. Obviously a unique relationship. It's a lot of test matches to play together as an opening too, isn't it? 89. Yes.
The fortunate thing for us, and perhaps for the West Indies team, is that we were able to stay together for that period, which was good. Having different people come in and out mean that you had to get used to this new person. The understanding had to grow, the communication had to develop. And because we worked so long together, sometimes there were situations where you knew, not knew as such, but you can sense what the other person were thinking or what it was all about. And things happen automatically. Runs were taken sometimes. We had one or two hiccups as well, but there were not many. So, you know, the understanding grew with the time that we had to spend together.
I guess this is a very typical Aussie thing to say, but People would say with the likes of Holding, Garner, Roberts, Malcolm Marshall, you should have been winning those test matches too.
Yeah,
The best fast bowlers in the world, all four coming at once.
Yeah, they were good medium pacers. Yeah, they were pretty good.
Medium paces. Now this is a tough one. You averaged over 44 in your test matches. How would you have gone, do you think, against a pace attack like the one the West Indies had? Did you have to face that in all your test matches? Even though there was very good fast bowlers around at that time anyway.
I would have averaged about 43.
43.99. They were awesome though, weren't they?
They were good. They were good, and they were consistent
Yeah.
in what they were doing, which made things very difficult for batsmen, especially having four. We didn't have spinners at the time. We still don't have spinners now.
Didn't need them at the
but
time.
now we still don't have the fast bowlers. That's the whole thing. But we had to use what we had, and they were the ones who were available, and they did the job superbly well. Well, what more can one say? They did what they had to do.
It was great timing, wasn't it? They just all came along at the one time and drove each other to new heights.
Yes, because everyone wanted to take wickets, so it was a challenge. And another fortunate aspect of the whole makeup of the team, when one were out, we were able to find a replacement. Not necessarily to perform to the same standard or as consistent, but he fitted in well, which was good.
We'll probably never see the likes again, will we? A four-prong attack, that quick, that lethal, that hostile.
Perhaps not as dominating, no. But there are some very good players and bowlers around, but not four, or not four who are going to dominate as well as they did.
I guess give yourself a rap. They always had pretty good targets to bowl at as well, didn't they? Because the West Indies batting lineup, no slouches, and just batted all the way through virtually.
The fortunate thing about that too is that if the top half didn't get runs, the bottom half did.
Yeah.
Because after you cut off from at 5, you had Clive Lloyd, Gomes, and all those guys at the bottom who actually gave the team a reasonable total so that bowlers could have a chance to bowl.
Malcolm Marshall could bat a bit too.
Yeah, I believe he batted one time with one hand. It wasn't very, it wasn't bad.
You're travelling good when you can do that. But inningses, you've had so many good ones. Is there one that really stands out for you?
People constantly sort of reminded me of the one game we played at Lord's. It was a test match there, where we had to get 330 runs or so in the day. It was about 4 hours and about 40 minutes or 50 minutes of batting. And I got a double century in that match. Also, you know, my first test match, I mean, I was very pleased with the outcome of that. You know,
You just failed to make a century in the first dig, but you made a century in the second innings, I believe.
yeah, that's correct, yes. Obviously, that would have been a sort of great sort of achievement.
Not a bad start to your test career, though, is it? I think it was 90-odd, wasn't it, in the first dig and a century in the second?
Yes, yes, it was. I think in '76, and my last test match would probably stand out in my memory more, in that the test match at Old Trafford, we were in dire straits there, and we had lost about the first 5 batsmen or so for about 50 or 60 runs. And although England didn't have the full complement of bowlers, those that played did exceptionally well. They bowled straight, they had a little bit of movement, and the fielders did the rest, the catching and so on, which was that's all you need. But we were struggling at about 40 or 50 for about 5, and I got a century in that match, and we ended up sort of winning that match. I think my probably last test match actually gave me a lot of pleasure as well, in that I was I was written off by the West Indies team and the West Indies media throughout that whole series. I wasn't doing very well. And unlike what is happening now, where everybody is doing badly, that test match, I ended up getting a double century, which was against Australia, and that was very pleasing as well. So that would probably stand up more, in that the pressure that was mounted on me solely by the punters and the media and media attention that was placed on that particular match and on what I was doing in that whole series, that probably gave me more pleasure.
Well, Gordon, just a couple of quick ones to finish with, a couple of tough ones. Obviously, leaving yourself out of this bracket, the best batsman you played with or against or saw, of course, you played with Hampshire and also Barry Richards there.
There have been so many fine players around, and they've been, you know, it's been very different occasions as well for them to perform. So I don't think really that if you ask that question to anyone who've played over the years, that would be able to nominate just one person. The Gavaskas, the Borders, the Richards, Barry Richards and Viv Richards, the Pollocks. They've been fine players around, and they all perform exceptionally well in most given situations.
I'm going to ask you the same thing about bowlers. You've faced all the good ones around the world, and your own guys, obviously, in the local competition. How do you rate them? Who is the best?
That's, again, too, that's very difficult. If you come across a person like Joel Garner, I mean, he's very awkward, to say the least.
And quick.
No, but the way he bowled, how he bowled, and deliveries that he bowled was very, very difficult and different. Even in the nets and so on, I mean, you had to be careful with your toes, and a normal sort of short of a length ball would have been firstly a bouncer to most people because they were so awkward, he's coming from so high. Then you had Joel Garner, who was Michael Holden, from Joel Garner, who sort of complemented each other as the years went on, running in with such an easy run in. I mean, so rhythmic, but he was an athlete. And again, to a different style of bowling, but very complementary to me, to the game of cricket. Malcolm Marshall, a little hustle and bustle, not a very tall person, but exploited conditions very well. There were so many. There were so many. It's very difficult. The Hadleys, the Thompson, the Lilly, I mean, all great bowlers. How are you going to pick one from all that group?
Gordon, thanks very much for your time on Head to Head.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and it is nice to be back in Australia again.
Thank you.
Thank you.